All right, so you're getting ready for a food production operator interview. We're going to dive into how to nail it using RoleCatcher's AI tools and expert guides. Think of this as your cheat sheet to interview success.
It's more than just getting a job, it's becoming a vital part of the food industry. Hiring managers want to see that you get it.
Okay, so before we jump into the questions, what does a food production operator actually do?
They keep the food and beverage industry going. Think manufacturing, packaging, operating machinery, all while laser focused on safety and quality.
And the work environment, what's someone walking into?
It can be tough, noisy, hot, cold, and definitely physical. It's key to show you're not just aware of this, but up for the challenge.
All right, let's get into the interview questions. First one, how do you ensure the quality of products during production? How should someone approach this?
This is all about how meticulous you are. Don't just say you follow procedures. Think about specific quality control measures you've actually done.
Give concrete examples.
Exactly. Did you do inspections? Were you responsible for certain checks? Did you ever hatch an issue before it became a big problem? Share those stories.
And it's not just what you did, but how you think. Like, what would you do if a product didn't meet standards?
Exactly. This is where you show you can solve problems. Do you stop the line? Document it. Identify the source of the problem. Hiring managers want to see how you think on your feet to protect food safety.
Okay, next. How do you prioritize tasks when working on multiple projects simultaneously? Things can get really hectic. How do you show you can handle it?
This is your time to shine. Show your organization skills and that you can stay cool under pressure. How do you manage lots of tasks effectively?
Do you use a to-do list or prioritize by deadline? Do you just have a system in your head?
Precisely. Explain it clearly. The interviewer wants to know you can handle the fast pace and not get flustered.
And what about when things go wrong, like machines break down?
This is where you show off how you analyze things. Explain how you identify and solve problems. Walk them through the steps. Do you gather data? Test solutions? Collaborate with your team. Give a specific example if you can.
So paint a picture of your problem solving in action.
Right. Remember, they want to see you think critically and find solutions quickly, especially when food safety or deadlines are at stake.
How do you maintain a clean and organized work environment during food production? It's all about food safety, right?
Absolutely. This is more than just cleaning up. It's about understanding sanitation and organization. It's a commitment to a safe and clean workspace.
So how do you answer this?
Think about what you actually do. Cleaning schedules, proper storage, hygiene practices. Maybe you have a system for keeping tools organized. Share those details.
It's about painting that picture of your commitment to a safe and hygienic environment.
Exactly. Now let's talk about deadlines. The question, how do you ensure production deadlines are met? It's all about managing your time. How do you stay on schedule and anticipate those challenges?
You have to show you can plan, organize, and prioritize to meet those goals.
Right. Break down large tasks. Set milestones. System for flagging delays.
Communication is key too, right? Keeping your team and supervisors in the loop.
Absolutely. You need to mention how you use communication to keep everyone on the same page and avoid delays.
What training or certifications do you have in food production? This is your time to highlight your credentials.
Absolutely. But don't just list them. Connect them directly to what the job needs. If they need safety, highlight that HACCP certification. If it's quality control, mention your GMP training.
What if you don't have a specific certification they ask for?
Talk about relevant training or courses you've done. It shows you're invested in learning, even if it's not a formal certification.
It's about showing you're ready to learn and grow.
Now, how do you stay up to date? How would you answer? How do you stay up to date with industry trends and technology?
Here, you show off how dedicated you are to always learning and that you're passionate about the industry.
Exactly. Mention publications you read, conferences, online courses, or even podcasts like this one. Networking's important too.
Like following those industry leaders on social media.
Right. Shows you're active and engaged in what's new.
So it's all about showing you're a lifelong learner and you're interested in keeping up with all the advancements in food production.
Here's one that gets to the heart of efficiency. How do you ensure products are produced efficiently without sacrificing quality? It's balancing speed and precision. How do you approach that?
It's not just about working fast, it's working smart.
Have you found a way to streamline a process, optimized a workflow, implemented a quality check that actually made things more efficient? Tell them about it.
It's all about finding those win-win solutions.
Exactly. Now let's talk about something that's inevitable. Conflict. How do you handle conflicts with team members during food production?
It's a team effort, so you have to highlight your communication skills and how you handle conflict calmly.
Maybe you're great at listening, finding common ground, or mediating. Whatever it is, focus on how you maintain a positive team.
It's okay to admit you've had conflicts. What's important is to show how you've learned from those experiences and how you communicate.
Right. Now let's talk about compliance. How do you ensure production processes are in compliance with food safety regulations? This is where you show off your knowledge of the rules.
You're the champion of food safety here. But go beyond just saying you follow the rules. What specific things do you do?
Highlight your proactive approach. Do you double-check labels or meticulously record temperatures? Share those details.
It's showing you understand that compliance isn't just a box to check. It's about food safety.
Now let's bring in RoleCatcher's AI.
How can their AI help someone tailor their answers for a food production operator role? This is where things get interesting.
It can do a lot.
Yeah.
Analyze job descriptions to find those keywords, customize your resume, and even give feedback on your answers. It's like having a personal career coach.
So you're crafting responses that are specifically addressing the needs of that company and role.
Exactly. Let's say they emphasize experience with a specific type of equipment. RoleCatcher would notice that and tell you to highlight that experience.
So instead of just saying, I'm familiar with food production equipment, you could say, I have 2 years of experience with XYZ equipment.
Exactly. That shows you've done your research and that you're genuinely interested in this specific opportunity.
Okay, now that we've covered those questions and how RoleCatcher can help, let's talk about the actual work environment.
As we said, food production can be demanding. It's fast-paced, often noisy, and may involve different temperatures. You need to acknowledge these challenges in your interview.
It shows you've done your homework and aren't afraid of hard work.
Right. Let's break down those potential challenges. First, the noise. How do you address that?
Well, if you're comfortable in noisy environments, mention that.
You could say something like, I'm comfortable focusing on my tasks, even with background noise.
And if you've used hearing protection or safety measures, highlight that. Safety first.
Absolutely. Next, the physical demands. Food production can be active. You're on your feet for long hours and might need to lift heavy things.
So if you have experience in physically demanding roles, be sure to showcase that.
For example, in my last role, I lifted boxes weighing up to 50 pounds, so I'm good with that.
And if there are repetitive motions, talk about your focus and precision.
Right. You could say, I know how important consistency and accuracy are in food production, and I'm comfortable with those kinds of tasks.
Now, another thing people might not think about is the temperature. Some facilities require you to work in the cold.
If the job description mentions that, address it head on. Don't let it be a surprise.
How would you approach that?
You could say, I know this role involves working in the cold, and I'm prepared. I've done it before, and am comfortable wearing the right clothes and taking breaks.
And if you've worked with temperature-sensitive products, definitely mention that.
Absolutely. Shows you understand the challenges and are ready to handle them.
Now, let's talk about something crucial. Safety. Food safety is paramount. They'll want to see that you understand that responsibility. What questions should someone be ready for?
A common one is, how do you ensure food safety? This is your chance to showcase your knowledge of regulations and procedures.
So mention any training you've had, like your HACCP certification or good manufacturing practices training.
Exactly. But don't just list things. Explain how you use those principles. Hand washing, PPE, sanitizing, handling ingredients properly.
And if you have experience putting those protocols in place or monitoring them, highlight that.
For example, in my previous role, I conducted daily temperature checks on refrigeration units and recorded the data.
Specific examples like that really show your commitment to food safety and your understanding of the procedures.
They might also ask about hazards you've encountered or how you would handle a potential food safety issue.
For instance, what would you do if you saw a coworker not washing their hands properly? That's a tough one.
It's about showing you prioritize food safety. You could say, I'd remind my coworker. If they continued, I'd escalate it to a supervisor to ensure the safety of the products and customers.
It's about finding that balance, addressing the issue directly, but respecting your coworker and following procedures.
Now let's talk about quality control. How would you answer something like, how would you ensure the quality of products during packaging?
Here you get to show off your attention to detail. You take pride in delivering a quality product. Talk about those steps, inspect products, identify defects, and packaging properly.
Right. And if you've used any tools or equipment for quality control, like scales or measuring devices, definitely mention that.
Adds credibility and shows you understand the practical side of things.
Now, teamwork. What kind of questions should people anticipate about that?
They might ask about your experience working in teams, how you handle collaboration, or how you contribute to team success.
A good example is, tell me about a time you worked as part of a team to meet a production deadline.
Share a story highlighting your communication, task coordination, and willingness to support your colleagues.
Focus on the positive and how you help the team succeed.
Now, problem solving. Problems are bound to happen. How do you talk about this skill?
They might ask about a time you solved a problem or how you would troubleshoot a specific issue, like a malfunctioning machine.
Don't just say, "I'd fix it." Walk them through how you would actually do it.
Exactly. First, you need to find the cause of the problem. Are there error messages, unusual noises? Then you might check the manual or talk to a supervisor.
If you have experience with similar issues, share those examples.
It's about showing that you can think for yourself and find solutions.
Communication can sometimes be tough in a busy production environment. What are some common questions about communication?
They might ask about your communication style, your experience handling tough conversations, or how you'd communicate in a busy environment.
Like, how would you tell your supervisor about a production delay?
This is where you show you can communicate clearly, concisely, and respectfully, even when things are stressful. You could say, I would immediately inform my supervisor, explain the delay, and provide regular updates.
It's all about keeping everyone informed and minimizing disruption.
Exactly. Now, technology is a big part of food production. The interviewer wants to know how comfortable you are with it.
They might ask about your experience with specific technologies or your willingness to learn new things.
If you have experience, highlight it.
But what if you're not familiar with the specific technology they mention?
Don't worry. Emphasize that you're a quick learner. You could say, I'm eager to expand my skills. I'm comfortable researching new technologies and getting training.
It's about showing that you're adaptable and committed to staying current in a constantly changing field.
Let's talk about automation. It's transforming food production.
What kinds of questions might come up about automation?
They might ask about your experience with those systems, your comfort level with robots, or even your thoughts on the future of automation.
So if you've worked with automated systems before, share specific examples of how you've operated, maintained, or even fixed those systems.
And even if you don't have direct experience, you can still show you're aware of it and willing to adapt. You can say, I've been reading about how automation is changing things, and I'm excited about the potential for improved efficiency and safety. I'm eager to learn more about how your company is using it.
So it's about showing that you understand the industry is evolving and you're ready to be part of that change.
Now let's move on to something a little more fun. Food.
It's not all about the technical stuff.
Beyond enjoying food, they want to know if you're really passionate about the industry itself.
They might ask you about your favorite foods, thoughts on food trends, or even what you like to cook.
They might even ask something like, what are your favorite things to cook or bake? Or what do you think about all these new plant-based foods?
This is your chance to show your personality and enthusiasm.
Don't be afraid to share what you're passionate about, maybe even your dream of opening your own food business someday.
It's those personal touches that can really make you stand out and connect with the interviewer.
And finally, the most important thing, be yourself.
It's all about being genuine, right?
Authenticity is key.
Yeah.
Don't try to be someone you're not. Let your passion for food production show.
When you're passionate about something, it really shows, and that can make all the difference.
The food production industry is about creating something real, something tangible. And that should be true for your job search, too.
You need to be genuine and show that you're excited about this opportunity.
Remember, RoleCatcher is here to help every step of the way. Their AI tools can help you with everything from tailoring your resume to practicing your answers.
They can give you the confidence and preparation you need to nail that interview.
So take a deep breath, believe in yourself, and go get that dream job in food production. And don't forget those numbers. Quantify your achievements. It makes a difference.
Instead of just saying, I improved efficiency, you'd say something like, I put a new system in place and cut production time by 15%.
Exactly. Numbers have impact.
All right, what's the third takeaway?
Food safety and quality control. Can't forget those. The interviewer have to see you understand how important it is to stick to the rules.
So training, certifications, and those specific steps you take.
Exactly. Don't be shy about the details. You're all about following the rules in a good way.
Okay, and last but not least,
Be yourself. Let your personality come through.
show them you're more than just your skills and experience.
Be enthusiastic, be engaged. Let your passion for food production be contagious.
That genuine enthusiasm can be a game changer.
And speaking of game changers, RoleCatcher and their AI tools.
They can really help you stand out, tailoring your resume, analyzing job descriptions, and all that.
So make the most of them and give yourself the best shot at landing that dream job.
Speaking of dreams, let's talk about career progression. Where can this role actually lead you?
Good question. It's important to see that there's room for growth.
You're not just stuck in one spot.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher's career guides are really helpful here. They show you the typical responsibilities for different levels in food production.
Well, that's smart. Takes the mystery out of planning your career.
Right. Like as an entry-level operator, you're focused on those basic procedures, weighing ingredients, packaging, operating machines with supervision.
So proving yourself, showing you're reliable, and a fast learner.
Right. Then, when you move up to a junior level, you get more responsibility. You're running machines on your own, keeping an eye on things, and making sure those food safety rules are followed.
Sounds like you have more control and are making a bigger impact.
Exactly. Then, as an experienced operator, you might lead a team, optimize processes, solve those complex machine problems, and work with other departments to keep everything running smoothly.
You're basically the go-to person.
And if you make it to senior food production operator, you're managing the whole process, developing strategies, keeping things compliant, training new people.
It's really cool to see how starting in this role can lead to such an amazing career.
Absolutely. And RoleCatcher's got resources to help you every step of the way.
Now let's talk about something that can be a bit tricky. Salary expectations. How do you know what's fair to ask for as a food production operator?
Research is your best friend. Websites like Glassdoor and Indeed can give you an idea of salary ranges, but they're just averages.
You have to consider your own experience and skills, right? And where the job is.
Exactly. A food production operator in New York City is going to have a different expectation than someone in a small town.
So how do you get a more accurate idea?
That's where RoleCatcher's salary data is really helpful. They use AI and machine learning to give you more precise estimates based on a bunch of different things.
So you can put in your location, experience, skills, and even the size of the company.
Exactly. It takes away some of the uncertainty and helps you figure out what you're worth.
Sounds really useful. It's not all about salary, though, is it?
Right. You also need to think about benefits like health insurance, paid time off, and retirement plans. It's about finding that right fit for your career and your life.
Let's talk about networking. It can be intimidating, but it's so important.
It really is. And it doesn't have to be about going to those big, fancy events.
More about building relationships and connecting with people in your field.
Exactly. It could be as simple as connecting with people online, going to webinars, or just reaching out to someone for an informational interview.
So where's a good place to start with networking in this industry?
RoleCatcher can help with that too. They have a feature that helps you organize your network. You can import your contacts, group them by industry or company, and even link them to specific jobs.
So you can see who you know and who might be helpful in your job search.
Exactly. Don't forget about informational interviews. They can be a game changer.
Those are just casual conversations, right?
Right. You can ask questions, get advice, and learn about different career paths. It's not about asking for a job. It's about gathering information and making connections that could lead to something later on.
Okay, let's talk about the interview itself. It's where all your preparation really matters.
Right. It can be nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. It's your chance to showcase everything you've got.
So besides research, practice, and understanding the role, what else can you do to nail that interview?
First impressions are everything. Dress professionally. Even if the company is casual, showing up looking sharp shows you're serious about the opportunity.
And it shows respect for the interviewer and their time.
Absolutely. And remember, how you carry yourself matters. Good posture, good eye contact, it all adds up.
It's about showing confidence and that you're engaged.
Another thing people forget is to ask good questions. Don't just sit there and wait for them to ask you things.
Asking questions shows you're interested and that you've done your homework.
Right. But don't just ask general things. Dig deeper. Ask about those challenges the team is facing, growth opportunities, or even the interviewer's own experience in food production.
Those questions show you're curious and really want to learn.
Now let's talk about something a lot of people dread. Salary expectations.
It always feels awkward to talk about money, doesn't it?
I get it, but it's a part of the process, and you can handle it well if you're prepared. Do your research. Use websites like Glassdoor and Indeed, But remember that RoleCatcher's salary data can be super helpful because it gives you those more personalized estimates.
It takes out some of the stress of trying to figure out what's fair, especially when you factor in things like location and experience.
Exactly. Once you know what to expect, you can practice how you'll answer the question. You can say something like, based on my research, I'm looking for a salary in the range of X to Y. Giving a range instead of a specific number gives you a little wiggle room.
And remember, salary is only one part of the compensation package. Don't forget about things like health insurance, paid time off, and retirement plans when you're deciding if a job offer is right for you.
It's about finding the right fit for your whole life, not just your career.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about networking one more time.
Networking is one of those things that can really make a difference in your job search, but it can also feel a little scary, especially if you're not a super outgoing person.
It's not about being the life of the party, is it?
Not at all. Networking can be as simple as connecting with people online or going to a webinar. You could even reach out to someone for an informational interview.
Those are just casual conversations, right? Not a formal interview.
Right. It's a chance to ask questions, get advice, and learn about what it's like to work in the industry. You're not asking for a job. You're just building relationships and gathering information.
And those relationships could lead to opportunities you never even thought of.
That's the beauty of networking. You never know where those connections might lead you.
So how do you actually get started with networking? Where do you find these people to talk to?
Well, RoleCatcher has a really cool feature that helps you organize your network. You can put all your contacts in there, group them by industry or company, and even link them to certain job applications.
That's so helpful. It takes all the guesswork out of it.
Exactly. It's all right there at your fingertips. And speaking of helpful features, RoleCatcher's mock interview tool is another game changer.
I've heard about that. Is it like having a virtual interview coach?
That's a great way to put it. You can practice answering common interview questions, and the AI will give you feedback on how you sound, what you say, and even your body language.
That's amazing. It's like having a personal trainer for your interview skills.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the more comfortable and confident you'll become. And that confidence will really show when you're sitting across from the interviewer.
So don't just wing it. Practice, 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 and use those RoleCatcher tools to your advantage.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, let's recap what we've talked about so far. First impressions are everything. Dress professionally, be confident, and engage with the interviewer. Ask those smart questions, and make sure you research those salary expectations.
Right, and don't forget those other benefits. It's not all about the paycheck. You want to find a job that's a good fit for you and your life.
Absolutely. And when it comes to salary, remember to use those online resources like Glassdoor and Indeed, but don't forget about RoleCatcher's AI-powered salary data.
Yeah.
It can give you a much more accurate idea of what to expect.
Okay, now let's switch gears and talk about something that can sometimes feel a little awkward. The greatest weakness question.
Oh, I know that one. It's like they're trying to trick you.
Exactly. What's the best way to handle it? I always feel like I'm either going to sound too negative or too fake.
The key is to be honest, but also to show that you're self-aware and that you're working on improving. Choose a weakness that's real, but also something that you're actively trying to get better at.
So don't just say something generic like, I'm a perfectionist.
Right. Give a specific example. Maybe you sometimes struggle with time management, but you've started using a new planner to help you stay organized.
So you're basically turning a negative into a positive. You're showing them that you're aware of your areas for improvement and that you're taking steps to address them.
Exactly. It's all about framing it in a way that shows growth and self-awareness. And speaking of growth, let's talk about something that can really help you stand out from the crowd. Initiative.
What does that mean in the context of a job interview?
It's about showing that you're not just waiting for someone to tell you what to do. You're proactive, you're thinking ahead, and you're looking for ways to contribute.
So how do you show that kind of initiative in an interview?
Well, one way is to ask those insightful questions we talked about earlier. Those questions show that you've done your research and that you're thinking critically about the role in the company.
Right. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the team right now? Or what are your company's long-term goals?
Exactly. Those are the kinds of questions that show you're not just looking for any job. You're looking for a job where you can really make a difference.
And that makes a big impression on the interviewer.
Another way to showcase initiative is to talk about times when you went above and beyond in your previous roles. Maybe you volunteered for a difficult project or came up with a new way to streamline a process.
So you're not just telling them that you're a hard worker. You're giving them concrete examples of your initiative in action.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be something huge. It could be as simple as taking the time to train a new employee or staying late to help finish a project.
It's all about showing that you're willing to go the extra mile and that you're always looking for ways to improve.
And speaking of improvement, don't forget about those RoleCatcher resources. They can really help you level up your interview game.
Right. Their AI-powered tools can help you with everything from crafting your resume to practicing your answers and getting personalized feedback.
So take advantage of those tools, do your research, and most importantly, be yourself.
I love that advice.
Well,
Authenticity is so important. When you're genuinely excited about something, it shows.
and that enthusiasm is contagious. It can really make a difference in how the interviewer sees you. Remember, the food production industry is all about passion, creativity, and making something delicious. Let that passion shine through in your interview, and I have no doubt you'll impress them.
Okay, before we move on to the next section, let's recap some of the key things we've covered. We talked about the importance of preparation, doing your research, and practicing your answers. We also talked about the need to highlight your relevant skills and experience, especially those related to food safety and quality control.
Right, and we talked about the importance of soft skills, like communication, teamwork, and problem solving. Don't forget to give specific examples of how you've used those skills in the past.
And of course, we can't forget about the importance of being yourself and letting your passion for food production shine through. That genuine enthusiasm can make all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something that can really give you an edge in your job search. Company research.
I know we touched on this earlier, but why is it so important to really dig deep and go beyond just looking at a company's website?
It shows the interviewer that you're not just sending out applications to any and every food production company. You're specifically interested in their company, and you've taken the time to learn about what they do and what they stand for.
It's like showing up to a first date, having already stalked their Instagram and memorized their favorite movie.
Well, maybe not exactly like that, but you get the idea. It's about showing that you're invested and that you care.
So how do you actually go about doing that kind of in-depth company research? It can feel overwhelming, especially when you're already juggling a million other things.
That's where RoleCatcher's AI tools can be a lifesaver. Their platform can analyze company websites, news articles, and even social media feeds to give you a comprehensive overview of the company's culture, their recent news, and even potential challenges they might be facing.
Wow, that's impressive. It's like having a personal research assistant.
Exactly. And once you have that information, you can use it to tailor your answers and your questions during the interview. It shows that you've done your homework and that you're not just giving generic responses.
So instead of just saying, I'm impressed by your company's commitment to sustainability, you could say something like, I was really interested to read about your recent partnership with a local farm to source your ingredients. Can you tell me more about that?
Exactly. That kind of specificity shows that you're paying attention and that you're genuinely interested in what they do.
Okay, so we've got the research part down. What about actually practicing for the interview? Is it really that important?
It's absolutely crucial. The more you practice, the more comfortable and confident you'll feel when you're in the hot seat. It's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
But practicing by yourself can feel a little silly. It's not the same as having a real conversation.
That's where RoleCatcher's mock interview feature comes in. Their platform lets you practice answering common interview questions, and their AI will give you feedback on your delivery, your content, and even your body language.
It's like having a personal interview coach right there in your pocket.
Exactly. And the best part is you can practice as much as you need to until you feel confident and ready to go.
So don't just wing it. Practice, 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 and use those RoleCatcher tools to your advantage.
Now, let's talk about a topic that can be a bit tricky to navigate. Salary expectations. It's that question that always seems to come up, and it can feel awkward to talk about money.
I hate that question. It feels so uncomfortable.
I understand, but it's an important part of the process, and you can handle it well if you're prepared. The first step is to do your research. Use websites like Glassdoor and Indeed to get a general idea of what other people in similar roles are making, but remember that those are just averages.
So you also need to factor in your own experience and skills, right? And the location of the job.
Exactly. A food production operator in New York City is probably going to make more than someone doing the same job in a rural area.
So how do you get a more personalized estimate?
That's where RoleCatcher salary data can be a game changer. Their platform uses some really fancy algorithms to give you a more precise estimate based on a ton of different factors like your location, experience, skills, and even the size of the company you're applying to.
That's so cool. It takes the guesswork out of it and gives you a much better idea of what's fair.
Exactly. And remember, Salary is just one part of the compensation package. Don't forget about those other benefits like health insurance, paid time off, and retirement plans. You want to find a job that's a good fit for your whole life, not just your career.
All right, one last time. Let's talk about networking. It's one of the most important things you can do in your job search, but it can also be one of the scariest.
I totally get it. A lot of people think networking is all about going to those big industry events and trying to impress everyone, but it doesn't have to be that way at all.
So what are some more low-key ways to network?
It can be as simple as connecting with people on LinkedIn, following industry blogs and podcasts, or attending online webinars.
So you're basically just staying up to date on what's happening in the industry and connecting with people who share your interests.
Exactly. And those connections can lead to amazing opportunities. You never know who you might meet or what doors might open.
And what about those informational interviews?
Those are a great way to network, too. It's just a casual conversation with someone who works in the field you're interested in. You can ask questions, get advice, and learn about different career paths.
So it's not a formal job interview, it's more like a fact-finding mission.
Exactly. And the best part is, those informational interviews can sometimes turn into real job interviews. You never know.
Okay, I'm starting to see why networking is so important. It's all about building relationships and making connections.
And those relationships can be incredibly valuable throughout your career.
So don't be afraid to reach out to people, ask questions, and learn from others. You never know where it might lead you.
And speaking of reaching out, don't forget about those RoleCatcher tools. Their AI-powered platform can help you with every step of the job search process, from networking to interview prep to salary negotiation.
They really are a one-stop shop for everything job-related.
So make sure you're taking advantage of all those amazing resources. And most importantly, believe in yourself. You've got this.
Now let's talk about a topic that often comes up in interviews, but can be a little tricky to handle. The dreaded greatest weakness question.
I know that one. It's like a trap. They're trying to get you to admit something bad about yourself.
Exactly. So how do you answer it without shooting yourself in the foot?
The key is to be honest, but also to frame it in a positive way. Choose a weakness that's real, but also something that you're actively working on improving.
So don't just say, I'm a perfectionist or I work too hard. Those are cliche answers that don't really tell the interviewer anything.
Exactly. Give a specific example. Maybe you say something like, I sometimes struggle with public speaking, but I've been taking a class to improve my presentation skills. Or I can be a bit too detail-oriented, but I'm learning to delegate tasks more effectively.
So you're acknowledging your weakness, but you're also showing that you're self-aware and that you're taking steps to improve.
Exactly. And that shows the interviewer that you're committed to growth and development, which are valuable qualities in any employee.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a little less scared of that question now. What about showing initiative? How do you demonstrate that in an interview?
It's all about showing the interviewer that you're proactive, you're a go-getter, and you're not afraid to take on new challenges.
So not just sitting back and waiting for instructions, but actively looking for ways to contribute.
Exactly. And there are a few ways you can do that in an interview. One way is to come prepared with insightful questions about the company or the role. Don't just ask generic questions like, what's the company culture like? Instead, ask questions that show you've done your research and you're thinking critically.
Like, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the team right now? Or what are the company's long-term goals for this department?
Exactly. Those are the kinds of questions that show you're not just looking for any job. You're looking for a job where you can make a real impact.
And those questions show the interviewer that you're engaged and that you're already thinking about how you can contribute to the team.
Another way to demonstrate initiative is to talk about times when you went above and beyond in your previous roles. Did you volunteer for a challenging project? Did you come up with a new way to streamline a process? Did you take the initiative to train a new employee?
So you're giving them concrete examples of your initiative in action. You're not just saying, I'm a hard worker. You're showing them.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be something huge. It could be something as simple as staying late to help a colleague finish a project or taking the time to learn a new skill that would benefit the team.
It's all about showing that you're willing to go the extra mile and that you're always looking for ways to improve.
And remember, those RoleCatcher tools are there to help you every step of the way. They can help you identify your strengths, practice your answers, and even get personalized feedback on your interview performance.
They're like a secret weapon in your job search arsenal.
Exactly. So use those tools to your advantage, and most importantly, believe in yourself. You've got this.
Now, let's talk about a topic that can feel a little intimidating. networking.
I know. Networking can feel so awkward, especially if you're not a natural extrovert.
Right. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just walk up to people at a conference and start handing out my resume? That feels so forced and uncomfortable.
You don't have to do that at all. Networking is just about building relationships and connecting with people who share your interests. It can be as simple as joining an online forum, attending a webinar, or even just reaching out to someone on LinkedIn to ask for an informational interview.
So it's more about being curious and making connections, not just trying to sell yourself.
Exactly. And those connections can lead to all sorts of amazing opportunities. You never know who you might meet or what doors might open.
And what about those informational interviews?
Those are a great way to network too. It's just a casual conversation with someone who works in the field you're interested in. You can ask them about their career path, what they like and dislike about their job, and any advice they have for someone just starting out.
So it's not a formal job interview, it's more like a fact-finding mission.
Exactly. And the best part is those informational interviews can sometimes turn into real job interviews down the road.
Okay, I'm starting to see why networking is so important. It's all about building relationships and making connections that can help you throughout your career.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher can help you with that too. Their platform can help you organize your network, identify potential connections, and even practice your networking skills.
They're like a Swiss Army knife for your job search.
Exactly. So make sure you're taking advantage of all those amazing resources. And most importantly, believe in yourself. You've got this.
Now, let's talk about a topic that can sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable. The greatest weakness question. It's one of those classic interview questions that everyone dreads.
I know, it feels like a trap, like they're trying to get you to admit something bad about yourself.
Exactly. So how do you answer it without shooting yourself in the foot?
The key is to be honest, but also to frame it in a positive way. Choose a weakness that's real, but also something that you're actively working on improving. Don't just say something generic like, I'm a perfectionist or I work too hard. Those are cliche answers that don't really tell the interviewer anything.
Yeah. Right. Give them a specific example. Maybe you say something like, I sometimes struggle with public speaking, but I've been taking a class to improve my presentation skills. Or, I can be a bit too detail-oriented, but I'm learning to delegate tasks more effectively.
Exactly. You're acknowledging your weakness, but you're also showing them that you're self-aware and that you're taking steps to get better. And that's what interviewers want to see. Growth and development.
Okay, that makes sense. What about showing initiative? How do you do that in an interview?
It's all about showing the interviewer that you're proactive, you're not afraid to take on new challenges, and you're always looking for ways to improve. One way to do this is by coming to the interview prepared with thoughtful questions about the company or the role. Don't just ask generic questions. Dig deeper and ask questions that show you've done your research and you're thinking critically.
Like, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the team right now? Or, what are the company's long-term goals for this department?
Exactly. Those are the kinds of questions that get the interviewer's attention and make them think this person is really engaged and wants to make a difference.
And that can really set you apart from other candidates.
Another way to show initiative is to talk about times when you went above and beyond in your previous roles. Did you volunteer for a challenging project? Did you come up with a new way to streamline a process? Did you take the initiative to train a new employee?
So you're giving them concrete examples of your initiative in action. You're not just telling them you're a hard worker. You're showing them.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be something huge. It could be something as simple as staying late to help a colleague finish a project or taking the time to learn a new skill that would benefit the team.
It's all about showing that you're willing to go the extra mile and that you're always looking for ways to improve.
And remember, those RoleCatcher tools are there to help you every step of the way. They can help you identify your strengths, practice your answers, and even get personalized feedback on your interview performance. They're like a secret weapon in your job search arsenal. So use those tools to your advantage, and most importantly, believe in yourself. You've got this.
That sounds really helpful, taking the guesswork out of networking.
It really is. And don't underestimate those informational interviews. They're so valuable.
Those are just casual conversations, right? Not like a formal interview.
Right. You get to ask questions, learn from people in the field, hear about different career paths.
So more about gathering information, not asking for a job.
Exactly. But you never know. Those conversations can sometimes lead to real opportunities down the road. You're building relationships, and that can open unexpected doors.
So that's all about expanding your knowledge and making connections, which can lead to things you didn't even know existed.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears and talk about making the most of that interview moment. It's where all your preparation paid off.
The interview can be nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. You get to showcase your skills and your passion.
Right. And while you can never know exactly what they'll ask, there are definitely things you can do to feel more prepared and confident.
Besides research, practice, and understanding the role, what are some other tips for a food production operator interview?
First impressions are everything. Dress professionally. Even if the company is casual, showing up looking sharp shows you take the opportunity seriously.
Shows respect for the interviewer and their time.
Exactly. Don't forget about nonverbal communication either. Good posture, eye contact, it all matters.
It's about showing you're engaged and confident, right?
Absolutely. And another thing that's often overlooked is asking thoughtful questions. Don't just sit there and wait for them to ask you things. Engage with them.
Asking questions shows you're genuinely interested and that you've done your homework.
Exactly. But don't just ask those generic questions like, what's the company culture like? You want to dig a little deeper.
What are some examples of good questions that would impress them?
Think about the company's recent initiatives or challenges. You could ask, I read about your new sustainability program. Could you tell me more? Or, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the industry and how is your company addressing them?
Those questions show you've gone beyond the basics and are really engaged with what they're doing.
Right. Now let's tackle salary expectations. This is a common point of anxiety for interviewees.
Ugh, yes. The dreaded salary question. It always feels so awkward to talk about money.
I get it. It can be uncomfortable, but it's a normal part of the process. And if you're prepared, you can handle it well. Research is your best friend here. Websites like Glassdoor, Indeed, those can be helpful. But don't forget about RoleCatcher's salary data. It's really powerful.
Yeah, I've heard that's super helpful. Why is that?
It uses AI to give you more personalized estimates. It takes into account your specific skills, your experience, your location, and even the size and industry of the company.
You get a much more accurate idea of what's fair for you in your area with your qualifications.
Exactly. And once you've done your research, practice how you'll answer that question. You could say something like, based on my research, I'm looking for a salary in the range of X to Y. Giving a range instead of a specific number gives you some wiggle room during negotiations.
And it's not all about the money either, right?
Absolutely. Don't forget about the other benefits like health insurance, paid time off, and retirement plans. Those are all important factors to consider when you're evaluating a job offer.
It's about finding the right overall fit for your career goals and your lifestyle.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive today, let's talk about something that can really add a personal touch to your interview, your passion for the food industry.
It's not just about the technical skills and experience, right?
Right. The interviewer wants to see that spark, that genuine enthusiasm for the world of food.
So how do you show them that you're not just there for a paycheck? You're genuinely passionate about this field.
Authenticity is key. Share your personal connection to food, whether it's a childhood memory of baking with your grandma or a fascination with different cultures and cuisines. Maybe you just have a deep respect for all the hard work that goes into producing the food we eat.
Those stories bring you to life as a person, not just a candidate.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get specific. Mention those hobbies, like gardening or trying new restaurants or volunteer work at a local food bank. Those details stick with the interviewer.
So it's about letting your authentic self shine through and showing that your passion for food goes beyond just the job itself.
And that's what will really make you stand out from the crowd.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into prepping for a food production operator interview, I hope you're feeling more prepared and confident.
Remember, with the right preparation and the help of RoleCatcher's amazing AI-powered tools and expert guides, you can absolutely nail that interview.
So go out there, showcase your skills, your experience, and your passion for food, and make a delicious impact on the world.
Best of luck in your job search.